Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Football Palestine Extra, where we break down all the news in Palestinian football and give it to you in this nicely condensed format. This week, we're going to be talking transfers and looking at Palestine's strikers, who I think there's an argument that Palestine might have the deepest and best collection of strikers on the Asian continent, maybe with a couple of exceptions. Maybe Japan and Iran. Perhaps you can make an argument for Korea that they've got a better collection, but Palestine's really making an argument, I think, for having maybe the best striking trio. And the problem is you cannot play three strikers, three classic number nines, at the same time. So let's talk about the news that happened. Then we'll talk a little bit about transfer rumors. So the three strikers I'm referring to, in no particular order: Asad Al-Hamlawi, Uday Dabbagh, Wissam Abou Ali. We spoke about Wissam Abou Ali last week because we got confirmation of his move to Columbus Crew. This week we got to talk about Asad Al-Hamlawi becoming the first Palestinian player to score a hat trick in UEFA competitions. And we have the small matter of Uday Dabbagh's future being determined. It looks like Uday Dabbagh to Zamalek on a 4-year contract. We'll also talk about that and the implication that has for the national team going forward. It's an important one, especially considering the Arab Cup that is coming up at the end of the year. So let's start with what happened, what we know, 100% not a rumor. Asad Al-Hamlawi's form has been incredible. And the trajectory of this player over the past 18 months is nothing short of remarkable. Very similar to Wissam Abou Ali's trajectory. But Wissam Abou Ali, I think, was more of a known quantity given the fact that he was an Aalborg academy product. He had played for Denmark, I think, at every single youth national team. Yeah, he had that hiccup in the middle of his playing career where he had suffered a cardiac arrest, and then when he came back, um, he suffered an injury where he broke several ribs, and that set him back. And then when he finally made his second comeback, he just started scoring. Went from the second Danish second division to the Svenskan to Al-Ahli, and now a designated player in MLS. So we know about that trajectory now. But I think we're in the middle of watching Asad Al-Hamlawi do something very, very similar. And, Asad Al-Hamlawi had played a good amount in the Superettan, as the Swedish second division. He even made his Allsvenskan debut when he was, I believe, around 18 years old, scored in the Allsvenskan. So it wasn't like he was completely unknown. But, there are many talents that I think, they don't really kick on. That, they might make an Allsvenskan debut, they drop down to the Superettan, and then they make a career kind of in the Swedish second division. A lot of good, talented players, I must say, have a career trajectory very similar to that. I think the really remarkable thing about Al-Hamlawi is the fact that, one, he was so confident in his abilities. Two, he knew from very early on he wanted to play for Palestine. And in the winter of 2024, in January 2024, he went to Thailand and he tried to get a gig there as an Asian player. And I'm not sure exactly what happened there. I don't think he was able to get the passport, or it was delayed. He spent 3 months at a Thai third tier side. It was kind of like summer camp for him, because the Swedish off season is in the winter. He went to Thailand, played 3 months, scored a bunch of goals with this third tier side in Bangkok. And he was in communication with the national team players there, in particular Mahmoud Eid, saying, hey, how do I get in contact with the coaching staff? Because I really want to play for Palestine. Wasn't able to kind of get the offer that he wanted from a top tier side in Bangkok or in Thailand in general. Went back to Sweden, signed for a Superettan side. The end of the year, he was the joint top scorer of the league. For a side, by the way, it should be noted, that was closer to the relegation zone and probably would have been relegated if his goals weren't there to save him. And he had a good goal scoring ratio. He scored a goal every other game. And that led to the move to Slavsk Wrocław. Again, it was kind of a question mark. Like, okay, this is a big step up to go from the Swedish second division to the Polish top flight, and to a side that was really struggling. I mean, this was a side that was rooted to the bottom of the league, and it was a side that was just completely a mess because they missed out on the league title the year before on goal difference, and they all of a sudden found themselves almost guaranteed relegation. Yeah, they lost some players, but the drop off was huge. And the fact that he was able to establish himself in Poland at a club that was in dire straits and even kind of resuscitate them a little bit. There was a moment there where it seemed like they would be able to survive. Now, it didn't come to pass, but he scored against Lech Poznan, the league champions, and I believe they won that game as well. And again, he was able to score goals, and I think his tally at the end of the year was something like 8 goals in 16 games. Again, good enough for a goal every other game. And this is again for a team that wasn't flying by any stretch of the imagination. I fought for his transfer. I found it very curious that the clubs that would know more about him, so clubs in Poland, didn't go for Assad. But he fought for this move to Romania, for with Craiova, that is, I would say, probably like the third biggest side in Romania. I think you've got the club formerly known as Steaua, maybe Cluj or Rapid, and then Craiova. And then I don't even think Steaua, or the club formerly known as Steaua, is that big anymore because of the controversy of the fact that that club is kind of dead, and the current club is known as FCSB. I think they lost a lot of fans. So, but anyway, definitely a top three club in terms of popularity, and I think also a club that suited Esed very well. They liked Esed because it's the kind of player they go for, where it's not from the biggest league in the world, but doing quite well, still young. It's got good resale value, and they paired him with, I think, a lot of other talents around his age, some Romanian, some from abroad, and it's working. It's working really well. Now, there was definitely some alarm bells for some reason in the first two games that he didn't score, but he came good in his third game. A penalty, won the penalty, scored the penalty, and then got the winner a couple minutes later to win 2-1 against Universitatea de Cluj, or de Cluj. I don't know how to say it, but yeah, Universitatea Cluj. And then in the midweek this past week, they had to overturn that 2-1 away loss to Sarajevo, and he scored a hat trick, and it was a spectacular hat trick. He is on fire, and quite frankly, if he continues this trajectory, I don't know how much longer he'll be at Craiova. And the next step is probably, I don't know, like it could be an Italian side. It's very possible an Italian side could come in for him, or a side maybe not from the biggest league, but maybe a big club in a similar sized league to Romania could come in for him. The fact that he's penned a long-term contract means he's going to go even for more than €1 million that Craiova paid for him. So really exciting times. And although he's only played 3 times with the national team, you could just tell the energy that he brings. And I think one of the criticisms I had of Ihab Abou in that game against Ahmed that I really don't want to keep mentioning is the fact that he didn't bring him on at the end, because he brings such an energy and he's such a fighter. Like, I felt that he could have been used in those dying moments to kind of give us a bit of a break or breath as our man was pushing forward, because he's shown his ability to do that against Iraq, against Jordan, against Kuwait, all the games that he played in. So really excited to see his development, and a very pleasant surprise, right? Because if you told me after the Asian Cup, hey, listen, I said now he's going to do this, that, and the other, I would have said, I think that's a bit of a stretch for a guy that was being overlooked even by Palestine. But like, fantastic talent. You have to admire the mental fortitude of the player, and then I just love his commitment to Palestine. This guy always wanted to play for the national team, and is willing to sacrifice almost anything for the national team. I think I mentioned in one of the previous podcasts the fact that his sister was getting engaged. and it was close to the camp they were holding in Qatar before the qualifiers. And Ihab Abu Jazar was like, "Well, can you delay the engagement?"